Old cases often become hard to solve for a variety of reasons, but this one is especially puzzling. There are strange details on all sides, from the paramedics to the investigation team, and even after nearly 30 years, no justice has been served. No solid evidence, no CCTV, and complete silence from the victim's school. Sounds messy, right? Well, it is. Welcome to the infamous case of Zhu Ling's poisoning, which took place in Beijing, China. On December 22nd, last year, China was hit with heartbreaking news. Zhu Ling, the victim of a poisoning incident in Tsinghua University 29 years ago, had passed away. For many, this case might be unfamiliar, but for people in China, it was a gut punch, reigniting the pain of unresolved injustice. Zhu Ling had suffered from symptoms resembling a brain tumor, developed a high fever of 39 degrees Celsius, and eventually fell into a coma in March 1995. She remained unconscious for approximately 5 months before waking up in August of the same year. However, the delayed diagnosis of thallium poisoning caused irreversible damage, leaving her with severe neurological impairments. She suffered from significant intellectual, visual, and motor function losses, and she required full-time care for the rest of her life. Zhu Ling lived with these debilitating effects until her death in 2023 at the age of 50. Her family laid her to rest in Beijing, surrounded by loved ones and supporters still fighting for answers. Zhu Ling's case has haunted the nation for more than 2 decades, yet the investigation made little to no progress. Back in 2013, when a poisoning case at Fudan University was solved, people hoped it would lead to a breakthrough in Zhu Ling's case, but their hopes were dashed. The Beijing police explained that the investigation couldn't move forward. There simply wasn't enough direct evidence. With no surveillance equipment in place back then, crucial traces were lost, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint the suspect. Born into a well-off family, on April 24, 1973, Zhu Ling stood out early on with her sharp intellect. She was brilliant, talented, and ambitious, eventually making her way to Tsinghua University, one of China's most prestigious institutions. Her classmates described her as not only intelligent, but also attractive and musically gifted, with a passion for playing the guqin, a traditional Chinese instrument. It was on November 24, 1994, that Zhu Ling first noticed something wrong. She had sudden, sharp abdominal pain and lost her appetite. Still, she pushed through, continuing to practice the guqin for an upcoming concert in early December. Despite the discomfort, she didn't want to let her teachers and supporters down. No one thought it was anything serious. Everyone just told her to rest. Looking back, it's strange that she didn't visit a doctor right away. You know how some people just tend to shrug off health issues, thinking it'll go away on its own. Even when the pain drags on for days, they figure it's nothing serious and carry on with life. Despite her worsening symptoms, Zhu Ling showed incredible resilience. Even as her health deteriorated, she managed to attend her concert at the Beijing Concert Hall on December 11th, playing the guqin for the Tsinghua Chinese Orchestra. Her determination was remarkable, especially considering that her vision had started to blur, forcing her to wear glasses throughout the performance. Witnesses recalled that she was not only struggling with blurry vision, but also dealing with sharp, throbbing pain in her eyes the entire time. Despite all of this, Zhu Ling pushed through and delivered a flawless performance. After the concert, she went home to rest, but when she looked in the mirror, her heart sank. Her hair had begun to thin dramatically, revealing patches of bald spots. Realizing something was seriously wrong, she sought medical help. On December 23rd, she was admitted to Beijing Tongren Hospital. her hair nearly all gone. Initially, even the doctors were confused, but Zhuling's condition seemed to improve slightly, and by January 23, 1995, she was well enough to be discharged and return to her classes. It was a hopeful moment, but tragically, it wouldn't last. By March 6, Zhuling's health took a drastic turn for the worse. She was struck with unbearable pain in her legs and dizziness. According to Professor Chen Zhenyang, the pain was so intense that Zhuling couldn't bear to touch anything. The agony spread from her legs to her lower back, and her parents, growing increasingly desperate, took her to the neurology clinic at Peking Union Medical College Hospital on March 9th for more tests. There, medical professionals made a chilling observation. Zhuling's symptoms were frighteningly similar to those of thallium poisoning. By this point, her condition had worsened dramatically. She was losing hair rapidly, her limbs hurt to the touch, and her fingertips were turning red. Most alarmingly, she had developed measlines, white discolorations across her fingernails, a hallmark sign of thallium exposure. She was sent to Professor Zhang Shoulin, who confirmed the suspicion of thallium or arsenic poisoning, though the hospital lacked the necessary tests to prove it at the time. Now, what exactly is thallium? It's a highly poisonous metallic element that exists naturally in the environment but is extremely dangerous. Tasteless and odorless, it has been used in the past as a poison because it's difficult to detect. Thallium can enter the body through inhalation, skin absorption, or ingestion, and once inside, it wreaks havoc. Early symptoms include stomach pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. But the neurological symptoms are even more terrifying: tremors, headaches, insomnia, and seizures. If exposure continues, it can lead to coma and ultimately death. Sure enough, by March 20th, Zhuling's health took a devastating turn as she slipped into a coma. During this period, doctors threw everything they could at her condition, including an intense treatment regimen aimed at helping her recover. One key therapy was plasma exchange, which involved 7 sessions. Unfortunately, this treatment came with its own complications. Zhuling contracted hepatitis C, adding yet another blow to her fragile health. As if that weren't enough, she also developed pneumothorax, a condition where air leaks into the space between the chest wall and the lung, collapsing her left lung. This made her condition even more critical, and she had to rely on a ventilator just to breathe. Her loved ones grew increasingly desperate. Local doctors were doing their best, but it wasn't enough. On April 10, 1995, Zhuling's friends turned to the only avenue they hadn't tried: the internet. They posted an urgent SOS message on various Usenet groups, outlining Zhuling's symptoms and pleading for help with a diagnosis. Back then, the internet was a relatively new frontier in China, and only a handful of research institutions were even connected. Despite this, thousands of responses poured in, and about 1/3 of them suggested thallium poisoning. Experts around the world weighed in, supporting this theory, but the doctors at Peking Union Medical College Hospital remained skeptical. They insisted they had already tested for heavy metal poisoning, but in reality, they had only tested for arsenic. Frustrated but undeterred, Zhuling's parents took matters into their own hands. They learned about Professor Chen Zhenyang from the Beijing Institute of Labor Protection, an expert in thallium poisoning, and with the help of a doctor from PUMCH, they secretly sent Zhuling samples to Professor Chen for testing. On April 28, 1995, the results were clear. Zhuling's urine, blood, cerebrospinal fluid, nails, and hair all showed sky-high levels of thallium, hundreds to thousands of times higher than normal. It was undeniable. Zhuling had been poisoned. And it was speculated that Zhuling had been continuously exposed to thallium over a prolonged period. Analysis of her symptoms and medical tests indicated that the poisoning did not occur from a single large dose, but rather from repeated smaller doses administered over time. The hair analysis, conducted years later, revealed that Ling had been exposed to thallium sporadically at first, and then more frequently and in higher doses as her symptoms worsened. This pattern of poisoning over time suggests that the perpetrator had continuous access to her and the opportunity to administer the poison repeatedly. With this shocking confirmation, her parents immediately turned to Professor Xue Fangyu, the deputy head of the chemistry department at Tsinghua University, for help. They urgently informed him of Ling's condition, and Xue took swift action, reporting the case to university authorities. However, the handling of the case on the university's end was notably poor. When he contacted the deputy director of the Tsinghua University police station to formally report the situation, something inexplicable happened. The deputy director acknowledged the case, but failed to escalate it to the police department for a full investigation. Also, when Ling's friends tried to crowdsource medical help through the internet, Tsinghua's faculty and classmates reportedly displayed apathy, failing to assist in efforts to translate critical communications from foreign experts about her condition. What happened next only deepened the mystery. Between April 28th and May 7th, someone broke into Ling's dorm room and stole several of her personal belongings. But the items taken were bizarrely ordinary. Things like her contact lens case, a tube of lipstick, shampoo, shower gel, and a simple water cup. Why would a thief target such random, seemingly unnecessary items? Even more puzzling, a similar theft occurred when Ling's other belongings were moved to the chemistry department. The fact that these thefts happened to Ling's things not once, but twice, left everyone wondering if there was more to the story. After a comprehensive police investigation, suspicion in Ling's poisoning case fell on her roommate, Sun Wei. Sun had access to thallium due to a role in the chemistry lab and had multiple opportunities to administer the poison within their shared dorm. They were both part of the university's folk music team, and some sources describe their relationship as initially close due to their shared interests. However, underlying tensions between them may have existed, as hinted by the rumors surrounding Sun Wei's alleged jealousy toward Ling. Zhu was often described as intelligent, talented, and attractive, qualities that may have fueled rivalry or resentment. There is no definitive public evidence that their relationship was openly hostile, but some speculation suggests that jealousy could have played a role in the poisoning. The fact that Sun Wei had access to thallium, combined with her proximity to Ling and their shared space, only intensified suspicions. Early rumors suggested that the motive might have been related to a student election in which Sun allegedly lost to Ling, but when interrogated, Sun Wei vehemently denied any involvement. She claimed she bore no ill will towards Zhu and had nothing to do with her poisoning. Sun Wei was questioned for 8 hours by authorities, after which her family was called to take her home. Despite the interrogation, no solid evidence was found linking her to the crime. This would be the only time Sun was questioned by the police. In 2005, after more than a decade of silence, Sun Wei finally broke her quiet, publicly proclaiming her innocence. Her father backed this claim in a 2006 interview with Qingnian Zhou, but not everyone was convinced. Many people remained skeptical, and online discussions continued to swirl with suspicions. The public pointed to her family's powerful connections as the real reason she was never charged. It wasn't just rumors. Sun's family allegedly had ties to high-ranking political figures, including a cousin who was once the deputy mayor of Beijing and a grandfather close to then-President Jiang Zemin. These connections fueled theories that Sun's family may have influenced the investigation, allowing her to avoid charges despite being the primary suspect. In China, Guanxi, which means personal connections, plays a significant role in influencing decisions, and many believe this could explain why Sun Wei was released after only 8 hours of questioning, and why the case was later dropped due to lack of evidence. Adding to the suspicions surrounding Sun Wei, there was a claim from someone with inside knowledge that Zhu Ling's cup was found in a box under Sun Wei's bed. This detail was revealed by Bei Zhicheng, a high school classmate of Zhu Ling and someone who had closely followed the case. The cup's presence in Sun Wei's possession fueled the theory that Sun had both the motive and opportunity to poison Zhu Ling. But this specific piece of evidence has never been publicly addressed in detail by the authorities. The case soon hit a dead end. There were no concrete leads, no one to charge, and worst of all, Zhu Ling didn't receive the medical care she desperately needed. Even after tests confirmed she had been poisoned with thallium, Beijing Union Medical College Hospital hesitated in administering the proper treatment. Instead of immediately giving her Prussian blue, the antidote for thallium poisoning, they offered dimercaprol, a less effective remedy, until international experts intervened. At that time, there was no medical-grade Prussian blue available in Beijing, and the doctors were unsure whether they could safely use industrial-grade Prussian blue from local sources. This delay likely worsened Zhu Ling's condition. Meanwhile, her medical bills skyrocketed. The university refused to cover her expenses unless she remained enrolled, which became impossible as her health deteriorated. This behavior fueled public distrust, with many believing that the university played a role in obstructing justice. Despite this, a community of bloggers and supporters continued to rally behind Zhu Ling, driven by their suspicions about Sun Wei. But Sun had changed her name and moved abroad. In May 2013, a petition appeared on the White House website, calling for an investigation into Sun, who was believed to be living in the US at the time. However, by July 2015, the White House declined to act, stating that while Zhu Ling's poisoning was tragic, they couldn't intervene in foreign legal matters. In 2023 to 2024, a petition surfaced in the Australian Parliament, alleging that Sun Wei, now known as Jasmine Sun, was residing in Australia. However, this too went nowhere, as there were no legal grounds for action unless fraudulent documentation was involved in her residency. And so the case became a cold case for over 2 decades. Many still believe that Sun Wei was responsible for the poisoning, framing her as the sole perpetrator despite the lack of concrete evidence. Yet, without proof, the police let her go, leaving Zhu Ling's story as a haunting mystery, with justice still painfully out of reach. The Zhu Ling case leaves us with a haunting question. Why was the university so passive? It seems that the mishandling of the case stems from several factors. Tsinghua University, being one of China's most prestigious institutions, may have been more focused on protecting its image, which could explain their reluctance to cooperate fully with authorities or pursue critical leads aggressively. But it doesn't end there. Rumors of Sun Wei, the prime suspect having influential family connections, also raise eyebrows. Could those connections have put pressure on law enforcement to back off? Sun Wei was able to change her identity and leave the country without ever facing charges, fueling the idea that there was interference. It's no wonder this case has stayed unsolved for so long. There is just too much mystery surrounding it. But for now, all we can do is speculate. Now that Zhu Ling has passed away, the spotlight has once again turned back to the case, reigniting the questions and frustrations that have lingered for nearly 3 decades. This undying mystery continues to haunt those who followed it closely. Was this case mishandled due to a lack of effort by the authorities, or are we looking at one of the most perfect crimes ever committed in China? Ling's suffering was unimaginable. She endured years of pain, illness, and a life forever changed by poison. She didn't deserve any of it, and more than anything, she deserved justice. Will justice ever truly be served? Or will this case remain unsolved, locked away in history as a tragic reminder of what we lost? That is all for today. Thank you for watching.